If you're on a PBIS team, you're always on the lookout for those high-impact strategies, right? The ones that can really shift a school's climate. Well, today, we're going to dig into one of the most powerful and often invisible forces in our schools, the labels we put on students. And more importantly, we're going to break down how to systematically tear them down.
I just love this quote. The words you use are the house you live in. It's so true, especially in a classroom. The language a teacher uses, the words they say out loud, the ones they don't, it literally builds the environment where our students learn and start to figure out who they are.
So, what does that house look like when it's built with the wrong words, with negative labels? Let's jump into a real-world example so you can see what I mean.
Okay, meet Adrian. He comes into class, music blaring from his headphones, drums a little beat on the table, and then just shuts down, head on the desk. Now, his teacher's immediate reaction is to label him disrespectful, a behavior problem. But that last thought, I've given up. Wow, that's the most devastating label of all, isn't it? That one thought can totally define Adrian's entire year.
Now, this isn't just about one kid having a bad day or one teacher feeling frustrated. No way. There is some really powerful, well-documented science that shows how these expectations actually shape reality in the classroom. It's called the Pygmalion effect, and it's basically a self-fulfilling prophecy. What we expect from our students, for better or for worse, has a huge influence on what they actually achieve. You know, when a teacher truly believes a student can and will succeed, that student often does. Our expectations become their reality. It's that powerful.
Okay, but how does this actually happen? I mean, it's not like magic, right? How do a teacher's private thoughts and beliefs get transmitted so clearly to a student?
So, this is where it gets really fascinating. Research shows that teachers telegraph their expectations in 1,000 tiny, often subconscious ways. Just look at this list. Students who are seen as low achievers get less eye contact, they're called on less, they get less feedback. It creates this chilly classroom climate where some kids feel like their very presence is an intrusion. When you see it laid out like this, it's pretty eye-opening.
And the data on this, it's just stunning. John Hattie's research found that when teacher expectations are based on actual data, not just a gut feeling, the impact on student learning has an effect size of 1.44. Now, to put that in perspective, in education research, anything over 0.40 is considered a big deal. So 1.44, that is off the charts. It just shows the incredible power of truly knowing what a student is capable of.
So what happens when we intentionally break this cycle? Well, the positive impact of simply not labeling a student is a massive 0.61. That is a huge boost to their learning, and it comes just from taking away a negative label. Think about that for a second. It unlocks so much potential.
And on the flip side, the damage is just as real. Stereotype threat. That's the fear a student has of confirming a negative stereotype about their group. It has a negative impact of minus 0.33. This means that internal pressure is actively working against their learning. It's like they're carrying this heavy weight into the classroom every single day.
Okay, so we've seen the problem, we've seen the science. The big question is, what do we do about it? As PBIS teams, how can we equip our teachers to fix this? Let's start with a Tier 3 individual approach. We're talking about targeted strategies for building relationships with intention, especially with those students who are the toughest to reach.
The first tool in our toolbox is so simple it's almost genius. The 2x10 conversation. It's a structured, intentional way to build a real connection right where it's needed most.
And here's how it works. You find a student who could really use some positive attention. A student like Adrian. Then, for 2 minutes a day, for 10 straight school days, you just have a conversation. But here's the key, the absolute game changer. That last point. The conversation is about whatever they want to talk about. Not homework, not their behavior. It's about seeing them as a person first.
All right, our next individual tool is all about changing our language, especially when things get tense. It's called affective statements. And the whole idea is to shift away from those blame-filled you statements that put kids on the defensive and instead use I statements that talk about the teacher's feelings and needs.
Just look at the difference here. You need to pay attention. That's a command. It's basically an invitation to a power struggle. But the I statement, it does something completely different. It's vulnerable. It explains the impact of the behavior, and it ends with an invitation. Let's be successful together. It separates the action from the person and opens the door for a real conversation. Okay, those Tier 3 strategies are incredibly powerful for individual students. But how do we scale this up? How do we make this a reality for everyone?
Let's zoom out to Tier 1 and talk about building a classroom climate where every single student feels like they belong right from the get-go.
Here are 3 simple, universal strategies any teacher can start doing tomorrow. First, greet every student, by name, every single day. It sounds small, but it's a huge signal of respect. It says, "I see you." Second, personalize the space. Put up student work, photos, let them see themselves on the walls. And third, use materials that actually reflect the lives and cultures of the kids in that room.
And to help with that third point, here's a fantastic, super practical resource. This is a list of organizations that give awards to books that authentically represent diverse experiences. This is an awesome starting point for any teacher looking to build a classroom library where every single kid can see themselves in a story.
Ultimately, this work isn't just about changing what teachers do. It's about empowering students to change how they see themselves.
When the authors of our source text were writing their book, a student named Giovanni heard what they were working on and said, "Hey, I have something to say about that." This is from the poem he wrote. It's this powerful rejection of all the labels society tries to put on him, and a declaration of his own potential. This right here is what's at stake.
All of the powerful research and the practical tools we've talked about today come from the fantastic book Removing Labels by Dominique Smith, Douglas Fisher, and Nancy Frey. It's an absolutely essential read if you want to continue this conversation at your school.
So, we'll end with this question for you and your team. We've seen the incredible power of labels, both good and bad, and we've looked at proven strategies to dismantle the negative ones. The challenge now is to take these ideas off the screen and into your classrooms. So, how will your team help teachers become the change our students need to see?